So hello. So my name is Julie Cullen, and my training and coaching is focused on helping you build your confidence. And I'm so glad to see some of you here today with us live. You know, it really frustrates me when I see very competent and capable people not being given access to good career opportunities because they lack confidence in themselves, or they maybe have the confidence in themselves, but they lack the confidence to speak up and get themselves noticed. It's one of the reasons I developed a training course that is specifically about communication skills and speaking up, because that can be a challenge for many, even if internally you feel quite confident in your ability to do your job. So I set up my training and coaching to address some of these issues that are behind those feelings of fear and the doubt so that you can develop your confidence. And one of the things I want you to think about when we're talking today is your view on what confidence is. Because people often talk about confidence as if it's a personality trait. You know, oh, she's so confident. I wish I had her confidence, right? As if it's something that's innately part of your persona, but it's not. Confidence is something that can be developed. It can be something that you have in certain situations, but you don't have in others. It's a very fluid state. It's not a fixed state relative to each individual. There's actually two perspectives when it comes to confidence, which I want you to think about. Is there's the perspective of the other person. So that's where you look at someone else and you make the assumption that they are confident or not confident based on their behavior. So if you see someone, I don't know, standing up on a stage giving a presentation, you assume they're confident. You don't actually know what's happening inside. You just made that assumption because they're doing something that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing. Or you make the assumption that somebody's not confident because they don't speak up, but that might not be the reason that they're not speaking up. So we make assumptions about other people based on their behaviours. And then there's your perspective about your own confidence. And that's a feeling. It's an emotion. How confident do you feel inside? Or how confident or do you not feel confident in certain situations? So it's more about a feeling, it's more about an emotion. It's one of the reasons when I do my training and my coaching, I address both of these perspectives. Okay, I teach you techniques around language and presentation to help you look and sound more confident. Quite often, people will get up on stage and give a presentation, sounding and looking confident, but feeling very unconfident and unsure inside. So there's that side of things. What some people might refer to as the just get up and do it. Not a big fan of that, but people will be able to get up on stage or speak up in a meeting like we're about to talk about today. They may not feel confident, but you can sound confident. So I teach that. I teach the being able to portray that sense of confidence in your body, in your voice, in yourself. But then I also teach you how to deal with the voice in your head, right? To teach you to have a more confident mindset, to teach you how to understand what's going on in here so you can change to a more confident way of thinking and behaving. So I always approach it from both perspectives so that you get most bang for your buck, the most opportunity to look, sound, and feel more confident. Okay, so today we're specifically talking about confidently speaking up in meetings. So what I would like to do, I would like to get an idea of your own personal experience for the people that are here live. And even if you're watching this somewhere else that's not live, drop some comments below the video if you're able to, and share with me what is it you struggle with. So for those who are here live in the chat bar, tell me, are there any specific type of meetings that you struggle with? Any particular scenarios? Who's at the meeting? Does that influence how you feel? You know, there can be lots of different reasons why you feel lacking in confidence in one scenario and not in the other. For example, maybe meeting new people. Maybe there's people in the room that you've never met before and it's making you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Or a big one, a lot of senior people in the room. That's one of my challenges, and I'll share that with you in a minute. But if there's more people that are more senior than you, that might make you feel more nervous, or maybe you feel the people are cleverer or more experienced, or let me know, what is it with you? What particular types of meetings is it that you struggle with, and who's at it? And let me know how you feel in those meetings. So typically you will get people who will feel nervous about speaking up, worrying maybe what other people might think. You can get that whole, the whole body reaction thing where you start getting really, really nervous. You can get the shakes, you can get the beating heart, and the blush, which we'll talk about in a minute. That's one of mine, the blush. So what is your reaction in those meetings? Have a think about it. While you're doing that, I'm going to share my own personal story. I think it's only fair. If I'm asking you to share yours, I will share mine. So I remember I used to have a real issue with certain meetings and for me, it was who was in the room. So if there was people there that I was eager to impress, or there was some senior leaders there, or people who I really admired, for some reason I wanted to try a lot harder to impress them. And so that would be on the back of my mind when I was going to speak at these meetings. And I have to laugh because I remember, in fact, I shared this story just the other day there with my community about even just doing the round table introductions. And that way, I used to hate the host at the start of the meeting would say, right, let's go around the table and everybody can introduce themselves. Because especially if you're in a meeting where most people don't know each other. I used to do a lot of client meetings. So there was often people in the room that we didn't know each other. And that would just set me off. I would run the whole gambit of self-doubt, worry, embarrassment. What am I going to say? How can I sound intelligent, articulate? How can I let people know what I do in a very interesting way? Because I'd hear all these other people giving their introductions. I thought, oh, they're so interesting. I need to do more than just give them a job title. But I really, really struggled with it. And so I'd be sitting there and we'd be going round the room, round the table, and I could feel it starting. My head was giving, all that chatter was going on in my head. And then what happens is, that's all going on in your head, it triggers a body reaction as well. So all of a sudden, I could feel the heart rate starting to beat a little faster. You're getting a little bit warmer. You can feel yourself. It's starting to feel a little bit warm in the room. And all this jumble's going on. You're feeling a bit shaky. I just wouldn't pick up a piece of paper because I know it'd be flapping in the wind. My hand was shaking. And it would build up and build up. It was nothing worse if they started at the opposite end of the table and you were one of the last. And it would just build up until it got to my moment. And I would just sort of blurt out, oh, I'm Julie Cullen, and blurt out my job title and say very little else that would move on. And as I'm speaking, I can just feel the blush starting. And that's not, I don't know, I've never seen how red I get in those situations, but I tell you, it feels like I've got a face like a bright red tomato on top of my shoulders. It feels embarrassing. And then it moves on, other people do their introductions. I have no idea who is in the room because I haven't heard who's in the room because I've been too busy thinking about what I'm going to say. And then I start beating myself up for being so stupid and not being able to just give myself a nice simple introduction. So that was one of my challenges when I was working in corporate about how do I overcome that. And I'm going to share some techniques today that help me overcome it that I'm hoping will help you overcome it as well. So let's see what we've got. Anissa, speaking amidst a group of people in public and even friends and family. Okay, I get red and flustered. Yeah, red, sharing of the red. If it's one person, it's okay. People with authority, I get nervous too. Yeah, and that's a biggie because sometimes it's really easy to have that one-on-one conversation, and it's harder to have that conversation when there's lots of people. All of a sudden, the focus is on you, and it's interesting that you experience that both professionally and personally as well. So the focus for today is on professional scenarios. I want you to think about it in terms of personal as well as to why you're going into that scenario, and hopefully some what you hear today will help. Pavlina, I am often concerned I would say something that's not relevant or ask a question that sounds stupid. I often ask myself, is it okay that I don't know? In public speaking is a big issue. Overthinking everything you say. Yeah. And you may have done it yourself, or you may have heard other people doing it, but the number of times that people will say, this may be a stupid question, but, and then ask the question because you're so nervous that people might think it's a stupid question. So it's one of the things I teach in my courses is changing the language you use so that even if you feel lacking confidence, you at least sound confident by not using words that detract from it. But you're right. So that's that kind of worry about what other people might think. And despite the fact that the host can often say there's no such thing as a stupid question, you can't help getting up inside your head and worrying that it might be. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So thank you very much for sharing. So the first technique or tip I want to give you today, excuse me, is to think about that situation I just expressed where you're given an introduction about who you are. Okay. In any of those situations, whether it's in a meeting or a networking event, or personally when you're meeting somebody, when it's workplace related, when you're talking about you and what you do, you want to have an introduction that is so well rehearsed that you can roll it out in any situation. So, excuse me, whether you are, as I mentioned, in a meeting, in a networking situation, any kind of workplace scenario, bumping into a senior executive in the lift, you know, they always talk about having those elevator pitches. You want to have a kind of introduction that you are so well rehearsed at it that you don't even think about it. Okay. Now, I've seen people try and do this and struggle and really try to make it so complicated, and it doesn't need to be. And what I'm going to do, if you just bear with me, I'm going to copy this formula and share it with you in the chat. Okay, now this is a very, very, very simple formula to help you start to frame what you might want to say when you meet someone. And you can use this in any scenario, as I mentioned, meetings, roundtable introductions, bumping into somebody in the corridor, meeting somebody at a networking event. This is a really, really good one. And it's very simple. All you do is you say, my name is, insert your name, and I do, what is it you do? For, who, so that, what's the benefit and outcome? That's all you need. Those 4 things. And you will immediately, the person will understand what you do, and you give them enough information that if they want to know more, you give them that opening to spark a conversation and ask some questions. So a very simple example. If I was introducing myself, as say in the past, I might just introduce myself as the title. Say, hi, I'm Julie, I'm the account manager, or I'm an account manager. That can mean so many different things to so many different people, depending on your background and your experience. And for example, where I worked at the time, and when I had the account manager label, it could have had a delivery meaning, or it could have had a financial meaning, or service delivery meaning rather, and a financial meaning. So it could have had 2 different meanings, even just in my organization. Never mind if I've meeting with people that have never worked in my organization or have been in the same company, but maybe a different organization, different department, maybe meeting somebody with a different industry. What does that mean in that industry? Might be something entirely different. But what you could say instead, using that formula, is, hi, my name is Julie. I manage the financial reporting for our organisation so that the revenue and profit status of the account is well documented. So most people would understand what that means. Most people might think, she's a bean counter. She looks after the money. She deals in spreadsheets all day, doing revenue and profit. Right? It means something to most people, no matter what industry you're in. Finance, revenue, profit, right, got it. I now understand what kind of space you're in. Does that make sense? Type in the comments if that makes sense to you. Okay, so, and having that so well prepared, so you can just roll it out in any situation. Thanks, Pavlina. Just roll it out in any situation. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about what you're going to say to these people. If you can create an introduction that is very simple for the majority of people to understand. If you use that even with friends and family, like how many times if my husband half the time didn't even know what I did. I moved careers so often, I kept changing jobs. And if I said to him what my job title was, that meant nothing to him. But if I told him what I did, that made sense. Even his job, he's what you call in his industry, a coach builder. And you see some people looking very blank. Well, what does that mean? What is a coach builder? Some people think, oh, you build buses. No. So for him, it would be, hi, my name is David. I build the boxes at the back end of a lorry for people who have purchased, or for, what could we say, people who deliver goods and services, so that they can have either a refrigerated vehicle if they have to deliver food products, or they can have curtain vehicles if they need access to the whole side of the vehicle. So I build different styles of box on the back of articulated vehicles for that industry. Okay, I could probably simplify that if I give it a bit more time, but do you see what I mean? Coach builder, nobody knows what that is. I build the boxes on the back of articulated vehicles. Okay, most people know what that kind of means. Maybe not what's involved, but kind of know what it means. Okay, so that's the first tip I want you to think about. Have your introduction so well rehearsed that you can rattle it off to anybody and they'll understand what you do. Okay, the second thing I want you to think about, crikey, we're at 20 minutes already, I move on. One of the things I want you to think about is why you feel the fear and doubt. And Anissa, that's why I was kind of thinking, when you're thinking about your personal situation, is understanding what is behind you feeling like that. What's going on in your mind at that time? Quite often it can be that what a few of you have shared about the embarrassment. You're worried what other people are going to think. Okay, now when you're doing that, and Pavlina, it was interesting what you said about asking a question that's not relevant, worrying that the question is not relevant. And so you're not thinking about the conversation per se, you're thinking about yourself. You're putting the focus on you. Will the question sound stupid? Okay. And then you mentioned as well about overthinking. So putting the focus all on you. And when you do that, that's when the head starts, the mindset goes, and you start worrying if it's going to sound stupid, worry what other people are going to think, worry how it comes across, worry if it's the right question at the right time, worry if what you're about to say is relevant to what everybody else is talking about. You go inside your head and you start thinking about those things. So one technique to try in that situation is to change your focus. So what do I mean by that? So if we think back to the roundtable introductions, now I mentioned about how my head went all over the place. I didn't know who was in the room because I wasn't listening, I wasn't paying attention. I was just too focused on what am I going to say. So one of the things to do to get yourself out of that is change the focus. As soon as you're focused on yourself and your brain goes into that spiral mode, it affects your thought process, it affects your body, it affects everything about how you're about to react and behave in that situation. Whereas if you can focus and listen to everybody else, so in that roundtable scenario, listen to what each person's individually saying, who are they, really getting so focused on wanting to know who they are, what they do, right? So by the time it gets round to you, you haven't a chance to worry about yourself. And then hopefully you've rehearsed your introduction, so you just whiz out your introduction and you carry on listening to everybody else. Taking notes is a good thing for that. So if you struggle to keep the focus, take the notes. So for example, Pavlina, in that situation where maybe you want to ask a question, try writing it down first, so that you can see it's not a stupid question, because you've framed it already. You've put it down on paper and you think, yeah, it's something I want to know the answer to. And then when the chance comes to ask it, you've got it there. You've already framed what the question is that you want to say. And if you write it down and you think, that's not really how I want to ask the question, you've given yourself the opportunity to tweak the words a little bit so that it comes across in the way you want it to come across. Okay, does that make sense? So what you're doing here in these two scenarios is, one, you're being better prepared, right? You're prepared for what you want to say. And the second is dealing with that mindset. It's one of the reasons I mentioned at the start of the conversation is that's why I teach the two different ways of viewing this. It's the techniques to enable you to feel more comfortable with what you're going to say, but then also you need the technique to deal with the voice, to deal with what's going on in your head, to learn how to be more confident in yourself. And by removing the focus on yourself and putting it out to everyone else is one way, and then also to frame what you want to say so that you feel more comfortable about the question that you want to ask. So ask me, Pavlina, answer me if that's something that you think you could apply and try the next time you feel like you want to ask a question or share your point of view. Okay, so I did promise at the top of the call that I was going to try and keep these to 20 to 30 minutes. So we're on 24 minutes already. So I am going to wrap up. Now, I promise you, these techniques do work. I've used them myself. Right? I mentioned a scenario where I could sit in a conference room full of 20 people, or maybe even less, and get so nervous and so worked up and so embarrassed just introducing myself. Since then, applying these techniques, I've been at networking events where I've had to stand up in front of a room of 50, 70 people and introduce myself. And I've used these techniques. I've had my introduction well rehearsed, so I'd even practiced it on in the car on the way up to the networking event. So I know exactly what I'm going to say. And then secondly, I focused in on the people, which is really great. And in that situation, you want to focus on who else is there and what they do, especially when you're in business, because you might be able to collaborate and work together. So those two techniques I shared with you because I know they work. So I encourage you to try them. Okay, so tell me in the comments, does that answer some of why you're here today? Is that useful for you? Do you think that is something you could go back to your desk and try and apply? So for those of you that are interested in doing more of these lunch and learns, so thank you very much. This is my very first one in this format, so please give me some feedback and let me know if you found that useful and if you would like to see more of these. The next one, next Friday, is all about developing your strategic network. So this is about building a network that can help you grow your career. So first of all, do you know what a strategic network is? Do you know how to utilize a strategic network? Do you know who should be in your strategic network? Do you even know if your network is strategic? Or do you need to build that? So I'm going to give you some very specific actions to take to build your network. So if you'd like to join in, you can register using the same link as you used to register for this one. Or you can, I'm just putting a wee link in the comments there, you can register for my weekly newsletter. So there's a newsletter that goes out every Thursday morning, 8 o'clock UK time, in which I share advice, inspiration, career tips, but also importantly, I share the information about the weekly lunch and learns that you can take part in. And I'll also share where the replays are if you've missed the live or you can't make the live, but it's a topic that you would like to know more about. So I've popped that into the chat. If you just go there, provide your name and email address, then that'll put you on the list to get that every Thursday morning. Pavlina, very helpful. We'll definitely try them. Brilliant. I'm glad to hear it. And if they work for you, or if you struggle with them, I'd love to hear back from you. So please, I am so approachable. If you want to approach me in LinkedIn, send me a DM. If you want to reply to the email, I'm going to send you an email this afternoon, MD that was here registered for this event. I will send you an email this afternoon just to give you that information so you've got it. So yeah, you can always reply to my emails as well if you've got any questions that you think about after we've finished off for today. Okay, Anisa, thank you very much for that feedback. Very appreciated. Okay, so there we are. 30 minutes in, top of the hour. I'm going to wish you, sorry, couldn't get that out. I'm going to wish you an enjoyable Friday afternoon, and I hope you have a good weekend. And I hope to see some of you again next Friday, same time, same place. Until then, bye for now.